Hello and welcome to my Happy Cells and Souls YouTube channel. I'm Julie Powers, and as a licensed Zumba instructor and as a business partner with the Juice Plus company, my mission is to help people know that life is better when they're dancing through it, and I also want to inspire healthy living around the world. But my expanded mission is to create better health at the cellular level and more joy at the cellular level. And I do that because I believe our time here on earth is supposed to be joyful and happy. And so if we have healthier, happier bodies, then we get to be more joyful. If we embrace our inner being and we fill ourselves up with joy and light, then we have more to spill out on everybody else, right? So that's what these videos are about on this YouTube channel. And it's because I've had the honor and privilege of knowing some remarkable people throughout my life. And each one has something different and very valuable to share with the world. And I think that we should learn from everyone, have open minds and open hearts, because everybody has something to share and we can learn from them. Even if we have different backgrounds, experiences, perspectives, political beliefs, religious beliefs, whatever it is, right? There's something to learn from everyone. And so that's what I want to do today is I want to learn from Andrew Colyer. And Andrew, I used to know him as Andy, because I've known Andrew, for many, many years. We grew up in the same small town in Missouri, and I knew his family from the time I was a little girl, but Andrew and I were in high school together, and we graduated way back when. And so when we were in high school together, Andrew was the music man. He really was. He was an absolute natural talent, singing and piano and trumpet and you name it, Andrew could do it, right? And so I would love for you to share a little bit about your story, because you went from, all this music stuff as a younger person. You went into chiropractic, and you're a doctor now of chiropractic, and you live in the Northeast of the United States, and you sort of lost track of your music life, but then you found it again, and you were able to step into your dream, and in a big way. And so I'd really like for you to kind of take us on that journey of how that all happened, and kind of help people understand if they have a dream inside, they need to go after it. And so can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on your show, Julie. When I was a little kid, probably about 7 years old, as you said, I started playing the piano when I was 3, and started singing at a young age and playing the trumpet at a young age. But I think I was around 7 years old, and I used to turn off all the lights in the living room in our house, and I'd have one little light on the piano, and I would play the piano in the dark. And in my mind, I was on stage in front of thousands of people, playing in a big, venue somewhere. And I had that for a long time growing up, and I always just had a knowingness, like right in my, like I just knew I was going to be a musician. And my parents didn't really support that. They did the best they could, but from their upbringing and their own belief systems, they thought, oh, you're going to be a starving artist. We don't want you to be starving. You're going to get into drugs and all the bad things that you hear about the music industry. And so they pushed me to go into healthcare. So in college, I had a double major in classical piano performance and pre-med. I went to chiropractic school. And
Yeah, you had both sides of the brain going on there.
Yeah, I did. But right, I was already doing both. I was on those. Right. So after college, I really wanted to go to Berklee College of Music in Boston, but I wound up going into chiropractic school, and I've been doing that for 25 years. And the only fortunately is that I love it, and I'm good at it, and I enjoy helping people, but it wasn't really my dream. I feel like it's a career that kind of chose me. I didn't really choose it. And so in 2011, I was 45 years old, and I just was, the musician part of me was depressed. My whole life wasn't terrible, but because I had ignored that musician part of myself, I wound up moving across the country 7 times in 20 years. I'd made a number of bad financial decisions because I just kept trying to make a bunch of money so that I could stop being a chiropractor and just go be a musician. And so in 2011, I read an article about the Ramones, the Ramones, world famous rock band. Johnny Ramone used to take the subway from Long Island to New York City, and he was so broke, he was so poor that he carried his guitar in a brown paper grocery bag. And there was something, and I was doing a bunch of therapy about getting over, issues that I had, and I was working really hard to get over those issues because I was so tired of being depressed and angry that I wasn't doing music. And I read that article in Rolling Stone magazine, and I thought, you know what? That dude didn't have any money. He was so broke, he carried his guitar in a paper bag. I don't need to have money. I need to just start doing it. Instead of being mad that I'm not doing it, I need to just start doing it. So I just started taking steps. And one of the frustrating things that I know that I had, which means other people have probably had the same thing, is a lot of times you might go to a Tony Robbins seminar, right? And like, I'm going to do it, and then you're like, that's it. But what is it? I don't even know what it is. I don't even know where to start.
But you knew music. And
I knew music, and I knew that I had to do something, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So I started looking around to see what can I do. If I can just start let me just take a step. I can just take and then I'll take another step, and then I'll take another step. So in my mind, I had all these visions of stuff that I wanted to do, but I had no idea to go from like here to here. Another movie, there's the Raiders of the Lost Ark movie with Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
And he comes to this chasm, and he has to cross this chasm, and they said, just have faith, right? And he steps out into seemingly what's a chasm, but there's this invisible
and that
bridge.
thing pops out.
And he couldn't, right, but he couldn't see it until he actually started on the path. So for me, what happened was I thought, well, I have to start doing something. So I started writing. I looked on a local music website. I started finding some people in my area. I started playing with musicians in my area. Then I wound up going on a progressive rock cruise. And I said, I want to do something like that. Then I came home, and then I joined a progressive rock tribute band. That progressive rock tribute band became my band Circuline. That changed into my band Circuline. Then I kept going to conferences. We kept playing live. I did lots of networking, lots of social media. I met more people. I kept going to concerts. Then I became a sideman in other bands. And then a guy named Robert Berry saw all the progress that I was making. And I had met him in 2011 as part of my I'm going to, decide I'm going to be a musician thing. And then Robert picked me up to be in his band. And we just completed a 6-week tour of North America. And I'm covering the music of Keith Emerson and Jordan Rudess and Rick Wakeman's, arguably some of the hardest keyboard parts of all time. Now that band is going to go to Europe next summer. My band Circuline's already been to England. We have international sales. And so, I've got, by the way, I don't think you knew this either. I got some awards for an independent film that I did.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, I don't usually, talk about it. You'll see it on my website and see it on social media. But, so the thing that I want to emphasize is that sometimes you can't, you have a vision of where you want to go, but you just don't know how to do it. And by the way, when I decided to do this, I was 45 years old. Now, if somebody who's 45 years old is going to tell you they're going to be a professional musician, when most people can't even be a professional musician, you would think that would be crazy. Like, what is wrong with you? And I could see the look on people's face. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to finally go have my music career. Be like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, good for you.
I hope that works out for you. Oh, how's your little band going? And I'm like, oh, here's a poster of us on stage in front of like 1,000 people at a major festival, or here's or people talk about the tour, like this Robert Berry tour. I'm like, oh yeah, you're going on tour. And when I put the poster up and it's got 29 dates and it's an international thing,
they're like, oh, it's a real thing.
And they go, oh, there's you when you're touring. It's the strangest thing. So even people who you think are supportive, they may not necessarily be. You know what? They're only supportive as long as it doesn't affect them.
You know what, though, Andrew? I think that the problem is that people don't have that same ability to still dream, because I think that after we're little kids and our dreams are getting squashed, sometimes really harshly, and sometimes we're not trying to squash anybody's dreams, but we believe that reality is reality and that there's no other way out. But I think that people get caught up in that, and they have forgotten to dream themselves. And I know I forgot to dream for a lot of years because reality was pretty harsh. And so I was afraid to even think about possibilities for myself. So it's hard to say to someone else who's 45, oh my gosh, that's the most amazing thing, versus, wow, I really hope that works out for you. So there's that.
Right. Good luck with that. But yeah.
Yeah. But because my mind has been a lot more open in the last couple of years, and expanding more and more all the time about just really opening up to the possibilities. If somebody were to come to me today and say exactly what you said, I'd be all over it. But maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I would have done the exact same thing that all those other people did. So as you said before, you're doing the best you can with what you have, right? And what you know. And I saw your concert. I was lucky enough to get to be in the audience for one of your performances with Robert Berry and the other guys. And you guys were amazing, but your ability to play all of those keyboards and all of those things at the same time was pretty crazy.
It's really hard.
as far as I know, you didn't miss a note, and you had like all these things going on at the same time. So I've been to a lot of live concerts, not as much as you, of course, but I've seen people doing that, and nothing like what you did, really. And so it's pretty miraculous. And so I know friends who have gone back to school in their 40s and late 50s to be nurses. And to me, I think, wow, that's really hard, because I know what that takes, because I've seen that before for other people going through nursing school. But my mind is like, there's no way I would want to do that. But go for it if that's what you want to do.
Right.
So
well, it depends upon what you're wired for. Some people are, there's another phrase that just came to mind that I remember hearing in the 6th grade. My parents were into a lot of that motivational stuff from the 70s and the 80s. And there was a guy named Skip Ross, and he used to talk about burning desire. What do you have a burning desire to do that you've always had? Because it's still there. It either just kind of died out on its own because life went another direction, or maybe it got extinguished by whatever life circumstances.
Right.
But it's not easy. It's definitely, it's hard and it's work, but for me, I already knew what was going to happen if I didn't do anything, because I'd already spent over 20 years not doing it. Right. And I just thought, you know what? This is just not acceptable for me to live the rest of my life being this pissed off that I'm not doing something that I think I should be doing. Exactly. So however hard work it is, whatever suffering I have to entail, it's still going to be better than not doing it. And as you make progress, every step you take is going to bring new problems. So it's not like all of a sudden you're going to start doing this new thing and working towards your passion, and you're not going to be more problems, and you're not going to be more struggles, you're not going to be more frustrations. You are, because that's just part of how it goes. It's life, it's joy and suffering together, but I would rather deal with the stress of having to mount a tour or make a new record or juggle multiple projects or handle dysfunctional people along the way, or money issues, like whatever it is. I would rather juggle with that suffering than the suffering of not doing it.
Well, do you think I think it's more sacrifice versus suffering, because you've chosen and you know what the end result is in your mind, and you can feel it, see it, taste it, smell it. You know what it's going to be. So it's really just more of a sacrifice, because you know that these are the steps that must be taken. Whereas I put suffering in the category of almost the victim mentality of, I'm never going to make it. So why did I try this?
That's really good.
Yeah.
That's great. I like that. You know what? You can have the sacrifice of pursuing your dream, or the suffering of not pursuing your dream.
Exactly. And you knew that, like you told me, your chiropractic office, you're in there 50 hours a week, and you got a lot of stuff going on, and yet you still, because it was your burning desire, which I believe was your passion and your purpose from when you showed up on this planet. That was part of your DNA, was to be a musician. And so if that's your burning desire, then you have to fulfill it, or you're always going to feel like you're suffering your entire life.
Right.
Now you're having that opportunity to do that. And if somebody else thinks, I don't have time to follow my dream, well, okay.
Okay. That's your
And you're
choice.
going to continue doing what you're doing, but
Right.
you did. So do you want to talk about that a little bit, about how you really fit it into the cracks until it started becoming
Oh,
such a part of your life?
well, a lot of times what our job is to figure out what we want to go for. And then we have to figure out how we're going to do it. Now, we also have to deal with harsh realities. So the harsh reality is, okay, I got a job at 50 hours a week, or maybe maybe you have children, or maybe whatever family, whatever, caring for parents, or whatever the harsh reality is. Okay, this is my reality. There's 168 hours in a week. Here is the hours that these other commitments require. Where am I going to make time? Where am I going to find time to do this other thing? Where can I start doing it? Is it 30 minutes at night? Am I going to get up an hour earlier? Is it 20 minutes here? Do I not do this? Do I get up at 6 o'clock on Saturdays and Sundays and get a chunk of time in the studio before something else? Do you need to have a talk with your loved ones and say, listen, I got to carve out some time to do this thing? So this is what I'm
A
asking.
family meeting,
Family got to have a family meeting and say, look, this is what I need to do. And you have a family meeting and slot in the things for family. And then look, this is my time. And you have to show up for yourself. 80% of success in this arena is showing up for yourself to make progress on whatever the thing is. And in the case of music, it's 50% music and 50% business. So there's the music, there's the developing as a musician and the artist and the creation time in the studio, making records and practicing and all that stuff. And then there's the business, which is, touring and money and sales and marketing and social media and all that stuff. Like it's a whole other business for me. I don't know, what someone else is doing, but, and you have to mentally, and also there will be a mental transition that will take place over time. And then, so now, and it took a few years to get the juggle of being like in doctor mode to like shift over to musician mode. And now I tell people it's like in your house. Like when you're in the kitchen, you do things that you do in the kitchen. Then you go to the living room, you do things in the living room, and you go in the bedroom, you do things in the bedroom. So now it's just like, oh, I do this, and then like now I go do that. And I can make the switch. I mean, like I just do it. But it took that mental shift took a while to be able to flip back and forth. And you'll do the same thing, you'll just figure out, your brain will rewire itself so that you become, you have to take the steps to become that new person that you want to be.
Right.
And then you'll integrate, you can't necessarily always just leave the other thing behind. You have to build this thing so it can take more space in your life, either financially, socially, business-wise, whatever it is. But your life will be changing.
Right.
To me, the most depressing or upsetting people, like, what's your biggest fear? I'm like, my biggest fear is that my life is going to look the same next year that it was last year. So to me, it's more exciting that at least things are changing and every year is different. Like it's never the same. So, when you're doing what you want, instead of what someone else decided for you, or maybe circumstances that life happened to you. Now you get to be, driving the bus or piloting the ship or whatever metaphor you want to use.
And, you did mention, a lot of people might be working full time. They might have children at home that they're responsible for. And, I think that a lot of people, especially women, but all parents, they take on this idea that their children have to have 100% of them because they're responsible for them, and that they have to wait to follow their own dreams or their passion or purpose because they have these kids. And so the kids become an excuse. But I believe that, this is something that took a while for me to really understand, but that your children and whatever other human beings you're responsible for, yes, there's part of that time that absolutely has to be for them, but they should be your why. They should be your reason for following your dream, because what you're doing is you're telling them and showing them that you want them to follow their dreams and that you want them to find their burning desire. Because when we have that inside us and we're being true to ourselves, who cares what anybody else thinks except those people that we love? we want them to be inspired by us to see that it's okay to go out and grab your dream. So I think that you are inspiring a lot of people just through your story, and probably your patients, your chiropractic patients. They're watching this transformation and they're probably going, oh my gosh, way to go, Dr. C, if that's what you go by.
Yeah, that's fine. A lot of
And so I think that it's such a great story, and I love that you're sharing it. And do you have anything that you can sort of plug in here at the end? We got like 1 minute left.
There's 52 weeks in a year. No matter how busy you are, you can find 4 hours. You can find 10 hours, I guarantee. Even if you had 4 hours, half a day, 1 day a week, times 50 weeks a year, that's still going to be 200 hours that year that you got to put in, even if they're baby steps. But at least you'll be making some progress every week. That's the most important thing is, 1% better. Just keep trying to get a little bit better and don't stop, and the progress will happen.
Well, that is great. And so I'm going to make sure that people see in the description below your website, which is colyermusic.com, right?
Yes.
Colyer music.com. And from that, they can find you on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, your YouTube channel, which has amazing music on it, and your band, Circuline. They can get directed to the band and maybe see where you're going to be touring. And thank you so much for spending this time with me today, Andrew, and it's fun to catch up.
It's great. Thank you so much, Julie.